Hello, beautiful people. Hey, look, before I start this session, I have a big announcement to make. And, the documentary that's been in the works for a long time about my son Eric's life, it's almost finished. But in order to get to that finish line, the director producer Paula Marino needs some help. So she needs funds to cover all the professional fees that will be involved to bring the story to the screen, like a professional story editor, a music composer, a sound mixer, an illustrator, animator, etc., etc. Now, Paula created a crowdfunding page where you can donate whatever you feel comfortable donating. You can also donate by purchasing a 30-minute session with one of our mediums, or by purchasing an item from the Erik merchandise store, like the one I'm wearing. Saving the world, one prank at a time. It's an embroidered image, so it's really nice. So anyway, go visit channelingericdoc.com and take a look at it. This project is very near and dear to my heart. And one of my greatest wishes is to get the story out to more people so we can help more people. And I want you to go and see the trailer that's on the channelingericdoc.com. It's so moving. It's so powerful. It was my first reaction. It was a gut punch. But it says it all. So look at the trailer and let me know what you think. Thank you, guys. Here's Ginger Bailey. You can check her out in the description box below and on the screen. And she is such a hot mess because she just
Yes.
iced coffee everywhere. She's turning into me, Elisa. But anyway, we're going to talk about narcissistic parents. And my parents were both narcissists, extreme narcissists. And this is a really good topic because I think it speaks to a lot of people. A lot of people have been raised by narcissistic parents. And we'll see what the community came up with in the way of questions. And I want to also welcome my lovely son, Erik, who's on the other side, who Ginger's going to channel about all this. Now, Big Mama and Poppy, they were really something else, huh, Erik?
Yeah. He's saying, "Hi, Mama, I love you."
I love you too.
He's still laughing at the whole situation of what's going on. I mean, I could see him laughing at me while I was cleaning. He's like, "Oh, calm down." Like I could hear that. Calm down. Because I'm going, "Oh my God, oh my God. It's
No, I would
everywhere."
be doing that too,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's like concentrated coffee and the whole mix and everything. It's crazy. But
Really?
anyway, he's saying yes. He says yes, absolutely. He says that, there's more, like we're going to be talking about parents, but, this has to do with any relationship of anybody in your life too.
Yeah, they're
You
not even
know,
parents. Yeah, these questions are just about, narcissistic relationships, probably more than anything else. All right.
right. But he does want to say that for narcissistic parents, out of all narcissistic people, that is probably the top of the line, the worst of them. And we don't want to like say good or bad because it is an experience needed. But he's trying to say, like, of all of them, that's the hardest because you're a child. Children are vulnerable. Children are trusting and innocent, and it really. They're impressionable, and it does make a difference, so not that anybody else is less than, but
if you have a narcissistic boss, it's miserable, but you can always change
right,
the job.
right,
So
right.
if
But
you have a
when
narcissistic
you're
friend, leave them, but you can't. A child can't leave their parents.
right.
And
Not
then
at
and then
least
that
not at a
reverberates
younger
because
age.
yeah, because as adults you can leave your parents.
Right,
It's
right.
like me, they died, thank God. Anyway, sorry, but it's true. I mean, this is the way I feel.
Yeah,
But
honesty, right?
anyway, then that child grows up possibly to carry on that same behavior. So we're going to investigate that a bit.
Yes.
So
And some go absolutely the opposite way sometimes, maybe overkill in the other way too,
that's me.
Yeah.
Flood my children with love until they can stand it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
is narcissism a learned trait or is it inherited, Erik? What makes a person narcissistic? Besides, it's a spiritual contract that they've agreed to be narcissistic in a relationship, so that the person can learn about something. I don't know, but why? What makes people narcissistic?
So there's different things, right? Different things that do this. He says DNA. Some people are born with a personality disorder. I know this sounds crazy and maybe not ever like talked about before, but he's saying that people are actually born with certain personality traits that if they are raised by a narcissistic parent, or maybe a parent that does certain things, maybe not narcissistic, but encouragement of behavior, you know what I mean? Like encouragement in the negative behavior kind of thing,
Yeah, of course.
can encourage it to grow. Like they're nurturing this narcissistic behavior instead of,
Yeah.
you
God,
know,
why would do that? Ugh.
yeah, instead of, well, because they don't realize it, because they don't
Yeah.
realize they're doing that. They don't look at their like 2-year-old and go, oh my gosh, this is going to be a narcissistic person. And it's just the way the parent parents. So it is different reasons behind this, but every single one of them is spiritual. Like it's usually like always a contract, always the journey.
How would a parent
So
know if their 2-year old is narcissistic? What signs would a young child exhibit?
So that's a good one. That's a good question. So something that he says is that they would show things like, and it's kind of hard when they're that young because they're still developing their personality,
Right.
right? But you can still kind of see nature. Like there's difference between the nature and someone's personality they develop,
Right.
something they're born with that's within them and their soul, maybe even coming from other lives, and ancestry, genetics. But something that he says is you watch for where they have like lack of empathy towards you. Lack of empathy is a big one. He says,
Or animal companions too. Maybe they hurt the animal companions or just
right,
not loving
yes,
with them, etc.
right,
Or
right.
controlling,
He
probably.
says excessive focus on themselves.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely for that. And a difficulty trusting others, which is still can be seen a little bit in toddler age,
yeah.
But you may not, you may think, oh, they don't know you, kind of thing. But you got to watch it. You got to watch as in, is it just that one person? Is it everybody? Is it every, living thing? Because you're right, animals are a big part of it. He says, difficulty, what is this? Hold on. Let me see what he's saying here. Emotions. That's a big one. It's like having a hard time expressing themselves, their
Yeah.
emotions.
Okay.
Difficulty with that.
Well, let's go to the age, an older age, where the personality is developed. Like say, at least from 6 on to the teenage years. How do you
Yeah.
tell?
Okay. So he's saying things like they have problems dealing with stress and adapting to situations, dealing with stress more than your norm. Okay. Let's see. He's showing like they become impatient, angry, easier. If they're not things aren't going exactly their way. They react with like rage too. He's saying problems like interacting with other kids,
Yeah.
interacting with others. There was a couple more he was telling me. Feeling like depressed and moody,
Oh, yeah.
getting that. And, that's kind of hard because you have that anyway, especially with teenagers,
I
it,
know.
yeah, but he's saying you put all these together, like you know what I mean? You don't just look, oh, they're depressed and moody, they might be narcissistic, or, there might be a chance they could be.
Yeah.
No, you look at the combination of things like the withdrawing, avoiding situations because they don't want to be wrong about something,
Oh,
or,
wow.
certain things
Well,
like
they're
that.
making wrong. They probably don't take accountability for their mistakes.
Right, and don't take accountability. They have very he's saying like feelings of insecurity, but they keep it to themselves, kind of thing, and try to cover that up. He's saying that now some people out there may not know, which a lot of people do, but there might be a few that don't know what narcissism is. And of course they can look it up, but he's saying one thing to know is that narcissists are in love with they're not like so much in love with their like true self. They're in love with like their idealized like self-image. He's
Oh,
saying like that kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah. And so, you know, yeah, he's saying that if you were to see, so people are going to say, well, what do you do? He's saying, if you were to see this, you know, all these signs, not just one or two, but the whole
A narcissist.
package, that's when you want to really start, not really labeling the child. You don't want to label them ever, he
No.
says, because they're already going to, kids already identify with some of the wrong things anyway as they grow up, he says. But you just want to keep an eye on how the behaviors, you know,
Yeah.
treated and how your reactions are to it, and just learn about it. He says that's the best thing anyone can do is learn about this, learn what it means,
And what's
learn.
the spiritual reason for having, what's our agreement, our contract that we have with narcissistic parents being raised by them?
So he says there's many things that, okay, he's saying there's many different reasons for every different person. It can be individualized, okay? But some of the ones that, some of the ones, if you want to think of some of the things that are pretty common, like common between them, is, and this is going to sound crazy because you think that you wouldn't have these things because of it, but it's to teach you boundaries, how to set boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
It's to teach you independence within yourself, self-love, self-esteem. These are things they take from you. So in turn, you're going to
Be more
learn
assertive.
about those. Yeah.
That's what I
Be
learned.
more, yes,
Assertive.
be
And
more
to love
assertive.
more. To love more.
Yeah. Right. There's so many things. He says, getting like control over your emotions is a big one. Learning how to control how you let people affect you. That's one of the biggest ones, having a narcissistic parent or loved one in your life, you know.
Yeah, some people would just shut down and not express emotions because
Right. A lot of people do, but to know this, he says, to know, it's knowing. He says the first thing is to know like the reasons, you know, that you're going through this first is because you were raised with maybe narcissistic parents. So
even if they're
once you
dead,
know,
they sit,
yes,
they keep on going, man. All
yeah, it does. It follows you, but you know, you have a choice as an adult to change the way you.
how you react to other people's.
Yeah, you don't want to identify, you know, you don't have to identify as that child that was raised by a narcissistic parent. And Eric's saying it's easier said than done. So not to downplay anything, because it isn't easy. It does take time, but there are ways to heal, which I'm sure there'll be questions about that today.
Oh yeah,
But
well let's see.
yeah,
First
yeah.
of all, let's go over some of the traits that I got from Chat GPT.
Okay.
Grandiosity, an exaggerated sense of self-importance, believe they are unique, superior, or more important than others, often talks about their achievements or status, even if they're inflated or imagined. But, you know, to me, I think that that's false. I think that's a false identity. I think narcissistic people have a lot of self-loathing. Am I wrong? I will admit if I'm
Oh,
wrong because I'm not narcissistic.
no, there is self-loathing only because their ideals are not sometimes reality, you know, even though they don't accept the reality,
Right,
they
right.
kind of, I mean, they're human beings, are going to see some kind of reality, but most of them don't live in a true reality, but they do see parts of it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's going to be loathing, especially if you don't get your way, you know, or you don't, you know, things aren't going the way you want them to go or the way you think they should go,
All
you
right.
know. But again, he's saying too that people, which we could get into that later probably, but he wants to say that when you're a narcissistic person, you know, there was obviously some kind of abuse growing up, some kind
Oh,
of something that, you know,
neglect,
triggered it.
abandonment, something like that.
Yes, absolutely,
All right, let's go
absolutely.
through these real quickly if we can. Needs for admiration, craves constant attention, validation, or praise. Easily offended if not recognized or complimented. May fish for compliments or dominate conversations. Oh my God, that's my dad. Okay, so yeah, that sounds like self-loathing. Give me love because I don't love myself. True or false? And we'll go on to the next one.
Without them realizing it, yes. Without them realizing it, yes, that's
Okay.
part a part of it. A part of it. Another thing is not feeling big or great inside, so they make it that way. Like they're
Oh,
very grandiose.
great.
They're very like critical. Look down on people. They look down on them. Set
Lack-
themselves higher in their mind.
Okay. Lack of empathy, difficulty recognizing or caring about other people's feelings or needs, may dismiss, invalidate, or exploit others' emotions. They can seem cold or indifferent, especially when others are vulnerable. That's why my
Yes.
dad, when he was so disappointed that Denise, my disabled diabetic sister, didn't become an orthopedic surgeon, his dream, not hers. He said, "If I'm so ashamed of you, if you were a homeless person wallowing in your own filth, I would spit."
Yeah.
I mean, that's something.
Yeah, yeah, that is true narcissism,
Oh yeah, for
absolutely to the
sure.
core, to the core. And there are different levels of it, Erik
Okay.
says. Absolutely, there's
All
different
right.
levels of it, but that is not getting his way. That is not getting what his idea is. They're very controlling. That's a big one too.
Oh yeah. All right, I'm going to go through. There's a total of 7. Here's the 4th one, so we'll try to make it quick. Sense of
Okay.
entitlement, because I haven't even gotten to the questions except for one. Sense of entitlement, expects special treatment without earning it, may become angry or impatient if things don't go their way, and believes rules or boundaries don't apply to them. I'm wondering if, and this is a question here, do you think that narcissistic, where was that thing? Is it they become narcissistic because they are trained to be a narcissist? Because where was that? Hang on.
Was it one of the questions?
Yeah, it was one of the questions. Because they give them a sense of entitlement, that they raise their kids like, oh, you're the best and all that.
Yes. Yeah, Erik says yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This is just another example of some parenting. Now, something he does say is not every child treated that way is going to end up narcissist.
Oh yeah, of
Okay.
course. Yeah,
But those who are already
yeah.
not so much already like a narcissist, but have certain personality traits. That's where it comes in, where your encouragement, that's the encouragement of the behavior without them realizing it.
Right, right. I mean, I think we lately have been raising very entitled children, and we make sure we rescue them from the consequences of their wrong choices, or bad choices, or just
Well, also everybody being a winner all the time too.
well,
You have to learn to
everybody.
lose.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
All right,
And
number
that
5.
was Erik, by the way. That's not my opinion, so don't come after me, please.
We won't. Manipulative or exploitative behavior, using others for personal gain or advantage, may flatter, guilt trip, or gaslight others to maintain control.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Often skilled at appearing charming or charismatic at first. Ooh, Ted Bundy, but he was a psychopath. All right, so that's true. Yes.
There actually is a fine line between sociopath and narcissism
Yeah.
sometimes, Erik says. Yeah.
They have also some components of borderline personality disorder, especially if they
Yes.
were abandoned or neglected as
Yes. And narcissism is a personality disorder in
yeah,
itself.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
All right, envy and belittling, envious of others' success, beauty,
Yeah.
and happiness. My father was very jealous of my successes. I would be the opposite. I want my kids to do better than me.
Right.
They
Right.
try to undermine others or appear dismissive, believes others are envious of them, even when that's not the case. So, gosh, what a terrible life to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. Erik's just like, he's like, it is. But there are, and it's important to remember too, there's other ways to look at it, perspectives. It
Yeah.
doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make the pain always subside, but there are ways that you can heal. He just wants to make that clear. And there's going to be more about that, I'm sure. But
Behavior
yeah.
therapy. Yeah. Okay. Last one, arrogant or haughty attitude. This is that, hiding your self-loathing, trying to build yourself up because you feel bad
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
a very deep level. Comes off as superior, boastful, or condescending, looks down on people that they see as less than, has difficulty accepting criticism, and may react with rage or contempt. Oh my God, I would never criticize my dad. I would be beaten to within an inch of my life.
Well, see that, you know what? At least that's a good point, because Erik says that, you don't, You can stand up to a neighbor, you can stand up to a partner, you can stand up to a friend. But when it comes to a child standing up to their parent, that's different.
Oh, I have
So,
dreams. I have dreams of me grabbing the belt. He used the buckle end to beat us, and his cowboy boots is up. But anyway, and I would dream that I said, "You stop this right now! I'm going to turn you into the CPS." And he stopped. Anyway, so let's go to
yeah,
the question.
yeah.
Oh yeah, this was the question I was trying to look for. It's right there. Are parents narcissistic because they had wonderful parents and it caused them to become entitled? Well, that would not be a wonderful parent. A spoiling parents and unaccountable, or is it because they had shitty narcissistic parents too? Maybe both.
So, he's saying that to that question, it's not just one type of parent.
Yeah.
And it can come from, if again you have the tendency to already have the personality traits. If you have a parent that is that's encouraging the behavior, that's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're great, you're wonderful, nobody's as good as you, which there's a fine line with that, he says, because it's okay to encourage your children and tell them that they're great and wonderful, but they also need to
Well, only
know
if they
that
are.
well, right, but I'm saying that the way he tells it is, the way he's showing me is that there's a fine line there, because you want to make sure that they realize that they're not better than anybody. We're all equal in our own way. We all have our own individual, unique
Right.
specialties about ourselves. Instead of you're the only one, you're the best. So in that way, a parent can do that. It's not like they're being mean, that they think
Oh,
they're being mean or cruel to their child. They think that they're being great and wonderful.
yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes it can be harmful, yes. And
Yeah.
then, yes, with the narcissistic parents, most of the time it's that
Oh. Okay.
that does it, he says. Already having, or not even just a parent, somebody in the family, somebody that they're around a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It could encourage that behavior. And again, it's still that underlining. It comes back to that. And I really feel like the reason why he's showing me that is because this is, okay, he's saying, yeah, because it's spiritual. They're supposed to be doing this. So if you have to have this lesson, you're going to have it put on your path. If you have
Absolutely.
to be somebody, a certain person, say a psychopath or, a narcissistic person, you're going to have things that teach you that you are around or encourage that behavior in some way or another.
They are here to teach more than they are here to learn. But I
Absolutely,
have
yeah.
learned how to be assertive and nurturing and loving because of my narcissistic parents. And I'm
That
grateful
is
for
common
that.
too. That is very common too. That is common. A lot of that is suppressing too, because if you don't face it or get therapy, and not that everybody needs to get therapy or they're not going to get better, but if you don't work on that and know this is the problem, you still sometimes can suppress those emotions, but you don't use them to raise your children, kind of thing, Erik says.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
people need to be aware of that, Yeah.
Do narcissistic parents love their children? Are they capable of loving the child?
They love them as in you would, oh, this is
A trophy, an
interesting.
asset.
Yes, as in you would love something like, this is my beautiful car. This is
Oh
my,
yeah.
beautiful house. So it's more of like it's mine. So it's beautiful kind of thing. And I love it. I love it because it's mine. False love. But this is not everybody, he says. There are
Oh.
some that
Well,
have,
let's ask my
yeah.
dad. My dad, did you love me? And if so, in what way? Jose.
He's saying that he didn't even understand love, like
No.
for what it truly was. So it's not like I didn't love you, I hated you kind of thing. It was more like I didn't understand what love
Yeah.
was. And his it was, to make things go a certain way and have control over children. He looked at as objects, not human beings.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
you
like,
program.
oh, she graduated medical school. That's all me. I raised
Yeah,
her.
right. It makes him
Yeah.
look good. Right,
It makes him
right.
good. So he was
Yeah,
abandoned pretty much by his parents and neglected. So that explains it. All right. So
yeah.
how should an adult child handle a situation where they witness their parent going into a narcissistic fit on another family member? Ooh, I say take that belt and tell them you're going to turn them in. No.
Yeah, right.
And
No,
that's it.
Eric's saying, first of all, never, it's futile to argue
Oh
with
yeah,
any
no.
narcissist,
The
especially when they're in a fit.
reasoning, no.
Yeah. He's saying you wouldn't want to really jump in and intervene, but he's saying that like you can support that person, stand by that person, support them, then let that person throw their fit, just like a
Yeah,
child throwing their fit on the floor.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's
they're not
it.
going to listen to you while they're throwing their temper tantrum. And that's the way to kind of look at this too, which that's another thing he's talking about. But real quick, he's saying, and then afterwards, you support that person, and try to help them through it and help them
So
understand
you
that
don't
it's
just
not
step
you.
in, you can't just step in and say, step away.
Right. You can't
Like
do that.
breaking
You
up a
don't want to
fight.
do that because it's just going to feed it's going to feed the fire. It's going to feed the flames. But he's saying, so you go to that person and afterwards and you support them and let them know it's not your fault, and kind of give them like an encouragement as in it's not you, it's them. Try to look at
Right.
it and help them look at it with a different perspective. So all you can do is give
Like they're
support
mentally
in
ill.
that way.
Gotta let them know, hey,
Right. And that's what he was saying a minute ago that I was going to say is one way you can deal with this if you're still dealing with even a child that you have a narcissistic child
yeah.
is always look at the person in a way as they're mentally ill. They have like as if you would with somebody that is a child that has a mental illness. And now he's not saying to
Yeah.
like be oh poor thing, not that, just the way you change your perspective can
Right.
help you deal with your
Right.
emotions, so you look at it as it's less intimidating if you look at it as them being somebody with a mentally challenged
Hey, mentally
person.
challenged. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's what helped
yes,
me with my dad,
yeah,
realizing he really couldn't help it. He came in here as a narcissist and
yeah.
mentally
That's not
illness.
forgiving the behavior. That's not
No.
forgiving the behavior, and that's not accepting the behavior. It's helping you cope
Right.
with that behavior and deal with it. So
Well,
yeah.
I do think it helps with forgiveness. I've forgiven my father because I needed that as a gift to myself. So, is going no contact with narcissists the best way to rid them of our lives? I guess it means just get them out of your life.
Yes, yeah. You have the right to choose and pick what toxicity you're going to have in your life.
Yeah.
And it is okay. Now, what Eric says is that people will feel sometimes, especially when it's parents or a family member, but especially parents, like that's your mom and dad. You have to, be there for them. You have to love them for who they are, kind of thing. Just like someone would say, that's your child, love them for who they are.
So,
But he says, absolutely not. Do you have to put yourself in a toxic situation and
yeah.
stay in it? And it's definitely okay to cut them off. Now, it's all an individual, it's
Oh, yeah.
individualized by who should and shouldn't. So you have to make that choice for yourself.
Yeah.
But the best thing you can do is look at this type of situation as an experience. It's a spiritual experience and journey, and you're going to learn from it. Like he says, let me see if I can put it the way he's saying it. He's like, look at it as it empowers you. Like, let it empower you, not bring you down, not
Right. Right.
take you over. Let it empower you to learn and grow and get through it.
I agree. To me, what helped me is separation. My parents sold me their practice. I bought it. And they were like always bitching about, we're giving you a low interest rate. So I got a loan, paid it off, and brought them a bottle of Dom Perignon. They got so pissed off because they could no longer control me. By
Yeah, that's
because they
hard.
said
That's
you're not
hard.
allowed to buy a house as long as you have a loan with us. So anyway, so separation, we were separated for
Yes.
years, and it was wonderful. So a trial separation could be a possibility.
Right, but sometimes they're not, there's no way to heal somebody else in a way or change
Yeah.
somebody else. They have to be the one to do it. So sometimes it is necessary to cut off ties and
My
just
life is
separate.
never
Yeah,
better. I swear to
yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't, there's going to be guilt. Eric says there's going to be guilt, but that's when you tell yourself that you have to do what's best for you. And this is an individual journey. And they may be your parents in this life, but they've not been your parents in other lives. So he says, kind of try to look at it as they were only put here to bring you into this world and guide you. And if they did not do that in a healthy way, then it's okay to cut off that unhealthy relationship.
Put on your own mats first, people. All right, let's do a couple more and then we'll go to part 2. We got kind of a late start. Is there debt as we as a child incur if we cut off narcissistic parents, like when they pass away and we spend years in years of no contact? Is a karmic debt we incur if we cut them off?
That's a good question. Eric saying, he said, he's saying no, there's not, because remember, karmic debt and any kind of karma is a choice. It really is. You don't have to, go through something or, that you've done to somebody else. And that's what karma is pretty much. But he's saying, no, it's not. Usually when you make a choice to do something like separate from somebody, that is part of your journey. You were supposed to do that. So don't think like you're doing something you weren't supposed to do. And no, there's not a karmic debt for that. There's not. Okay.
So how do you release the guilt when going no contact with a narcissistic parent, being told that, oh, that's your only mom and dad, how could you? How do you release that guilt? I think we kind of covered it, but maybe.
Yeah, we did. He's saying, you need to, it's just all it's in your perspective. And he says, be patient with yourself, because this didn't happen overnight to you. So you're not going to cure yourself or be healed overnight, but just know that you have the right, you have your own rights as a human being, an individual, okay, spiritual or physical. You have the right to choose what you're going to allow happen to you and how you're going to allow it to continue, he says. So it's all about letting go of the guilt, is about perspective, he says, changing the way you look at things, and working through it.
That sounds great. All right, let's pause. Let's stop here. You guys hit the notification bell so you don't miss part 2. I think there might be 3 parts because there's a lot of information for each question asked. And y'all hit like and subscribe, please. It really, really does help, and it would make me and Eric and Ginger very happy. Don't forget to check her out in the description box below. All righty. See you on the flip flop.